Apologies for all the errors there at the beginning. I am clearly technologically inept. I'll try to have it set up for tomorrow where you can watch Nimbus whilst I stream. But sorry about that. For now, we'll continue on with chapter 4 of our book, Marked. This is romance and not for the faint of heart, if I remember correctly. Some spicy language, spicy scenes as well. So perfect for a Wednesday, but not if you're young or young at heart. Chapter 4. So I sat on my bed and coughed while I listened to my mum making frantic calls to her shrink's emergency line, followed quickly by another equally hysterical call that would have activate the dreaded people of faith prayer tree. Within 30 minutes, our house would begin to fill with fat women and their beady-eyed paedophilic husbands. They'd call me out into the family room. My mark would be considered a really big and embarrassing problem. So they'd probably anoint me with some crap and make sure to clog my pores and give me a cyclops-sized zit before laying their hands on me and praying. They'd ask God to help me for being such an awful teenager. And a problem to my parents. Oh, and the little matter of my mark needed to be cleared up too. If only it were that simple. I'd gladly make a deal with God to be a good kid versus changing school and species. I'd even take the geometry test. Well, okay, not the geometry test, but still, it's not like I was asked to become a freak. This whole thing meant that I was going to have to leave, to start my life over somewhere. I'd be the new kid, somewhere I didn't have any friends. I blinked hard, forcing myself not to cry. School was the only place I really felt at home anymore. My friends were my only family. I balled up my fists and squidged my face to keep from crying, one step at a time. I'd just take this one step at a time. No way I was going to deal with the clones of the step loser on top of everything else, and, as the people of faith weren't bad enough, the hard prayer session would be followed by an equally annoying session with Dr. Asher. He'd ask me a lot of questions about how this and that made me feel. Then he'd babble on about teenage anger and angst being normal, and that only I could choose how it would have an impact on my life, blah, blah. And since it was an emergency, he'd probably want me to draw something that represented my inner child or whatever. I definitely had to get out of here. Good thing I've always been the bad kid and was well prepared for a situation like this. Okay, I wasn't exactly thinking about escaping from my house so I could run off and join the vampires, but when I put a spare key in my car, for my car, under the flower pot outside my window, I was just considering that I might want to sneak out and go to Kyla's house. Or if I really, really wanted to be bad, I might meet Heath in the park and make out. But then Heath started drinking, and I started to change into a vampire. Sometimes life doesn't make any sense. I grabbed my backpack, opened my window with an ease that said more about my sinful nature than about my step loser's boring lectures. I popped out my window screen. I put on my sunglasses and peeked out. It was only 4:30 and so not dark yet, so I was really glad that our privacy fence hid me from our totally nosy neighbours. On this side of the house, the only other windows were to my sister's room, and she would still be at cheerleading practice. Hell must be truly freezing over, because for once I was sincerely glad that my sister's world revolved around that what she called the sport of cheer. I dropped my backpack out first, and then slowly followed it out the window, careful not to make even the smallest oof noise when I landed on the grass. I paused there for too many minutes, burying my face in my arms to muffle my horrible cough, then bent over, lifted up the edge of the pot, and held the lavender plant Grandma Redbird had given me. I let my fingers find the hard metal of the key, where it nestled against the smushed grass. The gate didn't even squeak when I cracked it open and inched out like one of Charlie's angels. My cute bug was sitting there like she always sat, straight in front of the third door to our three-car garage. The step loser wouldn't let me park inside because he said the lawnmower was more important. More important than a vintage VW? How? That didn't even make any sense. Jeez, I sounded just like a guy. Because since when did I care about the vintageness of my bug? I must really be changing. I looked both ways. Nothing. I sprinted for my bug, jumped in, and put it in neutral. I was truly thankful that our driveway was ridiculously steep, because my wonderful car rolled smoothly and silently onto the street. From then it was an easy start and zip out of the neighbourhood of big expensive houses. I didn't even glance in the rearview mirror. I did reach over and turn on my cell phone, turn off my cell phone. Sorry, it genuinely is quite dark in here. I'm going to turn on the light. There we go. I didn't want to talk to anyone. No, that wasn't exactly true. There was one person I really wanted to talk to. She was the only one person in the world who I was positive wouldn't look at my mark and think I was a monster or a freak or a really awful person. Like my bug, I couldn't, like my bug could read my mind. It seemed to turn all by itself onto the highway that led to Muskogee Turnpike and eventually to the most wonderful place in the world, my Grandma Redbird's lavender farm. Unlike the drive to and from school, the hour and a half trip to Grandma Redbird's farm seemed to take forever. By the time I pulled off the two-lane highway into the hard-packed dirt road that led to Grandma's place, my body ached even worse than it did the time they hired that crazy new gym teacher who thought we should do insane weight circuits while she cracked her whip at us and cackled. Okay, so maybe she didn't have a whip, but still, my muscles hurt like hell. It was almost 6 o'clock, and the sun was finally starting to set, but my eyes still stung. Eventually, even in the fading sunlight, my skin felt tingly and weird. It made me glad that it was the end of October, and it finally turned cool enough for me to wear my Borg Invasion 4D hoodie. Sure, it is a Star Trek The Next Generation ride in Vegas, and sadly, I am on occasion a total Star Trek nerd, which thankfully covered most of my skin. Before I got out of my bug, I dug around in the back seat and found my old OSU trucker's hat and pulled it down over my head so my face was out of the sun. My grandma's house sat between two lavender fields and was shaded by huge old oaks. It was built in 1942 of raw Oklahoma stone, with a comfortable porch and unusually big windows. I loved this house. Just climbing in the little wooden stairs that led to the porch made me feel better, safe. Then I saw the note taped to the outside of the door. It was easy to recognize Grandma Redbird's pretty handwriting. I'm on the bluffs collecting wildflowers. I touched the soft lavender-scented paper. She always knew when I was coming for a visit. When I was a kid, I used to think it was weird, but as I got older, I appreciated the extra sense she had. All my, all my life, I'd known that, no matter what, I could count on Grandma Redbird during those awful first months after Mum married John. I think I would have shriveled up and died if I hadn't been able to escape every weekend to Grandma's house. For a second, I considered going inside. Grandma never locked her doors, and waiting for her, but I needed to see her, to have her hug me, to tell me that what I wanted. Don't be scared. It'll be okay. We'll make it be okay. So instead of going inside, I found a little deer path at the edge of the northernmost lavender field that would lead to the bluffs, and I followed it, letting my fingertips trail over the closest of the plants as I walked. They released their sweet, silvery scent into the air around me, like they were welcoming me home. It felt like years since I'd been here, even though I knew it had only been 4 weeks. John didn't like Grandma. He thought she was weird. I'd even overheard him tell Mum that Grandma was a witch and going to hell. He's such an ass. Then an amazing thought hit me, and I came to a complete stop. My parents no longer controlled what I did. I wasn't going to live with them ever again. John couldn't tell me what to do anymore. Oh, how awesome. So awesome it sent me into a spasm of coughing that made me wrap my arms around myself, like I was trying to hold my chest together. I needed to find Grandma Redbird. I needed to find her now. End of chapter 4. It was a quick one, wasn't it? We'll go straight into chapter 5. The path up the side of the bluffs has always been steep, but I climbed it about a gazillion times, with and without my grandma, and I'd never felt like this. It wasn't just the coughing anymore, and it wasn't just the sore muscles. I was dizzy, and my stomach started to gurgle so badly I was reminding myself of Meg Ryan in the movie French Kiss after she'd had all that cheese and had a lactose intolerant fit. Kevin Kline is really cute in that movie. Well, for an old guy. And I was snotting. I don't mean just sniffing a little. I mean I was wiping my nose on my sleeve. Gross. I couldn't breathe without opening my mouth, which made me cough more. I couldn't believe how badly my chest hurt. I tried to remember um, what it was that officially killed the kids who didn't complete the change into vampires. Did they have heart attacks? Or was it possible that they coughed and snotted themselves to death? Stop thinking about it. I needed to find Grandma Redbird. If Grandma didn't have answers, she'd figure them out. Grandma Redbird understood people. She said it was because she hadn't lost touch with her Cherokee heritage and the tribal knowledge of the ancestral wise women that she carried in her blood. Even now, it made me smile to think about the frown that came over Grandma's face whenever the subject of the step loser came up. She's the only adult who knows I call him that. Grandma Redbird said that it was obvious that the Redbird wise woman blood had skipped over her daughter, and that was only because she'd been saving it up to give an extra dose of ancient Cherokee magic to me. As a little girl, I'd climbed this path holding Grandma's hand more times than I could count. In the meadow of tall grasses and wildflowers, we'd lay out brightly coloured blankets and eat a picnic lunch while Grandma told me stories of the Cherokee people and taught me the mysterious sounding words of their language. I struggled up the winding path. Those ancient stories seemed to swirl around and inside my head like smoke from a ceremonial fire, including the sad story about how the stars were formed when a dog was discovered stealing cornmeal and the tribe whipped him. As the dog ran howling to his home in the north, the meal scattered across the sky, and the magic in it made the Milky Way, or how the great buzzard made the mountains and the valleys with his wings. And my favourite, the story about young woman of the sun who lived in the east with her brother, the moon, who lived in the west, and the redbird, who was the daughter of the sun. Isn't that weird? I'm a redbird, I'm the daughter of the sun, but I'm turning into a monster of the night. I heard myself talking aloud and was surprised that my voice sounded so weak, especially when my words seemed to echo around me, as if I were talking into a vibrating drum. Drum. Thinking about the word reminded me of the powwows Grandma had given me when I was a little girl, and then my thoughts somehow breathing life into the memory. I actually heard the rhythmic beating of the ceremonial drums. I looked around, squinting again, even in the weak light of the dying day. My eyes stung, my vision was all screwed up. There was no wind, but the shadows of the rocks and the trees seemed to be moving, stretching, reaching out towards me. Grandma, I'm scared, I cried between racking coughs. The spirits of the land are nothing to be afraid of, Zoe Bird. Grandma? I did hear a voice calling me by my nickname, or was it only more weirdness and echoes, this time coming from my memory? Grandma, I called again, and then stood still, waiting for an answer. Nothing except the wind. No lay. The Cherokee word for wind drifted through my mind like a half-forgotten dream. Wind? No, wait. There hadn't been any wind just a second ago, but now I had to hold my hat down with one hand and brush away the hair that was whipping wildly across my face with the other. Then in the wind I heard them, the sounds of many Cherokee voices chanting in time with the beating and the ceremonial drums. Through the veil of hair and tears I saw smoke. A nutty sweet scent of pinyon wood filled my open mouth, and I tasted the campfires of my ancestors. I gasped, fighting to catch my breath. That's when I felt them. They were all around me, almost visible shapes shimmering like heat waves lifting from a blacktop road in the summer. I could feel them press against me as they twirled and moved, graceful, intricate steps, around and joined in the shadowy image of a Cherokee campfire. Join us, uwet si adgeya. Join us, daughter. Cherokee ghosts, drowning in my own lungs, the fight with my parents, my old life gone. It was all just too much. I ran. I guess what they teach us in biology about adrenaline taking over during the whole fight or flight thing is true, because even though my chest felt like it was going to explode, and it seemed like I was trying to breathe underwater, I ran up the last and steepest part of the trail. Gasping for breath, I stumbled up the path, higher and higher, fighting to get away from the frightening spirits that hovered around me like a fog. But instead of leaving them behind, it seemed I was running further into the world of smoke and shadows. Was I dying? Was this how it happens? Was this why I could see ghosts? Where's the white light? Completely panicked, I rushed forward, throwing my arms out wildly as if I could hold on to the terror that was chasing me. I didn't see the route that broke through the hard ground on the path. Completely disorientated, I tried to catch myself, but all of my reflexes were off. I fell hard. The pain in my head was sharp, but only lasted an instant before blackness swallowed me. Waking up was weird. I expected my body to hurt, especially my head and my chest, but instead of pain I felt, well, I actually felt fine. I felt better than fine. I wasn't coughing. My arms and legs were amazingly light, tingly and warm, like I just slipped into a bubbly hot bath on a cold night. Huh? Surprise made me open my eyes. I was staring up at a light, which miraculously didn't hurt my eyes. Instead of the glaring light of the sun, it was more like the soft rain of candlelight filtering down from above. I sat up. I realized I was wrong. The light wasn't coming down. I was moving towards it. I'm going to heaven. Well, that'll shock some people. I glanced down to see my body. I, or it, or whatever, was lying scarcely close enough to the edge of the bluff. My body was very still. My forehead had been cut and it was bleeding badly. My blood was dripping steadily into a gash in the rocky ground, making a trail of red tears that fell into the heart of the bluff. It was incredibly weird to look down on myself. I wasn't scared, but I should be, shouldn't I? Didn't this mean I was dead? Maybe I'd be able to see the Cherokee ghosts better now, even though they don't scare me. Actually, instead of being afraid, it was more like I was an observer, as if none of this could really touch me. Kind of like those girls who have sex with everyone and think that they're not going to get pregnant or really nasty STDs that eat your brains and stuff. We'll see in 10 years, won't we? I enjoyed the way the world looked, sparkling and new, but it was my body that kept drawing my attention. I floated closer to it. I was breathing in short, shallow pants. Well, my body was breathing, not that I, not that it was me making me do it. Talk about confusing pronoun usage. The I, she didn't look good. I, she was all pale, and her lips were blue. Hey, white face, blue lips, red blood. Am I patriotic or what? I laughed, and it was amazing. I swear I could see my laughter float around me, like the puffy things you blow off a dandelion. Only instead of being white, it was like birthday cake frosting blue. Whoa, who knew hitting my head and passing out could be so much fun? I wondered if this is what it was like to be high. The dandelion icing laughter faded, and I could hear the shining crystal water. I moved closer to my body, able to see that what I had first thought was a gash in the ground was really a narrow crevasse. The living water sound was coming from deep inside. Curious, I peered down into the sparkling river, an outline of words drifting up from within the rock. I strained to hear, and was rewarded by a faint whispering of silver sound. "Zoe Redbird, come to me." "Grandma?" I yelled into the slash of the rock. My words were bright purple and filled the air around me. "Is that you, Grandma? Come to me." The silver mixed with the purple of my visible voice, turning the words into the glistening colour of lavender blossoms. It was an omen, a sign. Somehow the spirit guides the Cherokee people, as they have believed for centuries. Grandma Redbird was telling me I had to go down into the rock. Without any more hesitation, I flung my spirit forward and down into the crevasse, followed the trail of blood, and the memory that Grandma's whisper had reached me until the smooth floor of the cave-like room. In the middle of the room, a small stream of water bubbled, giving off tinkling shards of visible sound, bright and glass-coloured, mixed with the scarlet drops of my blood. It lit up the cave in a flickering light that was colour of dried leaves. I wanted to sit next to the bubbling water and let my fingers touch the air around it, play in the texture of its music, but the voice called to me again. "Zoe Redbird, follow me to your destiny." I followed the stream and the woman's call. The cave narrowed until it was round. Hold on. The cave narrowed until it was a rounded tunnel. It curved and curled around and around in a gentle spiral, ending abruptly at a wall that was covered in carved symbols that looked familiar and alien at the same time. Confused, I watched the stream pour down into the crack of the wall and disappear. What now? Was I supposed to follow it? I looked back down at the tunnel. Nothing was there except dancing light. I turned to the wall and felt a jolt of electric shock. Whoa! There was a woman sitting cross-legged in front of the wall. She was wearing a white fringed dress that was beaded with the same symbols that were on the wall behind her. She was fantastically beautiful, with long, straight hair, so black it looked as if it had blue and purple highlights, like a raven's wing. Her full lips were curved. Her full lips curved up as she spoke, filling the air between us with the silver power of her voice. "Si Luchi, uwet si yage." "Welcome, daughter. You have done well." She spoke in Cherokee, but even though I hadn't practiced the language much in the last couple of years, I understood the words. "You're not Grandma," I blurted, feeling awkward and out of place as my purple words joined with hers, making incredible patterns of sparkling lavender in the air around us. Her smile was like the rising sun. "No, daughter, I am not, but I know Sylvia Redbird very well." I took a deep breath. Am I dead? I was afraid she would laugh at me, but she didn't. Instead, her dark eyes were soft, concerned. "No, uet si agaya." "You are far from dead, though your spirit has been temporarily freed to wander the realm of the Nunehi, the spirit people." I glanced around the tunnel, trying to see the faces of the forms within the shadows. "Your grandmother has taught you well, Uiskti Dusua, little Redbird. You're a unique mixture of old ways and the new world, of ancient tribal blood and the heartbeat of outsiders." Her words made me feel hot and cold at the same time. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm known by many names. Changing Woman, Gia, Mother Spider, even Dawn." And as she spoke each name, her face was transformed so that I was dizzied by her power. She must have understood. because she paused and flashed her beautiful smile at me again, and her face settled back to the woman that I had first seen. But you, Zoe Redbird, my daughter, may call me by the name which your world knows me by today, Nyx. Nyx? My voice was barely above a whisper. The vampire goddess? In truth, it was the ancient Greeks, touched by the change, who first worshipped me as mother. They searched for within the endless night, and I have been pleased to call their descendants my children for many ages. And yes, in your world, the children are called vampire. Accept the name Uetsiagea. In it, you will find your destiny. I could feel my mark burning in my forehead. All of a sudden, I wanted to cry. I don't understand. Find my destiny? I just want to find a way to deal with my new life, to make this all okay. Goddess, I just want to fit in someplace. I don't think I'm up to finding my destiny. The goddess's face softened again, and when she spoke, her voice was like my mother's, only more, as though she'd somehow sprinkled the love of every mother in the world into her words. Believe in yourself, Zoe Redbird. I have marked you as my own, and you will be the first true Ue Tsiagea. V- oh, v- Right, see, you're all laughing, but you try. It's all like vowels and consonants. V, na, e, no, e, daughter of the night. In this age, you're special. Accept that about yourself, and you will begin to understand that there is true power in your uniqueness. Within you is combined the magic blood of ancient wise women and elders, as well as insight into the understanding of the modern world. The goddess stood up and walked gracefully towards me, her voice painting silver symbols of power in the air around us. When she reached me, she wiped the tears from my cheeks before taking my face in her hands. Zoe Redbird, daughter of night, I name you my eyes and ears in the world today, a world where good and evil struggle to find balance. But I'm 16. I can't even parallel park. How am I supposed to know how to be your eyes and ears? She smiled serenely. You are old beyond your years, Zoe Bird. Believe in yourself, and you will find a way. But remember, darkness does not always equate to evil, just as light does not always bring good. Then the goddess Nyx, and the ancient personification of night, leaned forward and kissed me on my forehead, and for the third time that day I passed out. End of chapter 5. I'm going to take a short break, and then we'll do chapter 6. Back in a mo. And we're back. Some books are a bit easier to read than others. Some just in how they're written. The language flows quite easily. As I'd said there yesterday, Darren Shan and his books are very easy to read because the sentences are quite short and they're snappy, and the English is, like the way you would speak in real time. So whenever you're reading it, it's like you're not even reading it. Like it's, just beaming into your head with the pictures. But there's other books that are a bit more of a struggle to read. Lord of the Rings would be one, where the language can be quite difficult. And so sometimes it's a wee bit of a challenge. But we are up for that challenge, and we will be continuing. Chapter 6. Beautiful, see the cloud appear. Beautiful, see the rain draw near. The words of the ancient song floated through my mind. I must be dreaming about Grandma Redbird again. Made me feel warm and safe and happy, which was especially nice since I'd been feeling so crap lately, except I couldn't remember why. Odd. Who spoke of the little ear of corn high upon the stalk? My grandma's song continued. I curled up on my side, sighing and rubbing my cheek against the soft pillow. Unfortunately, moving my head caused an ugly pain to shoot through my temples like a bullet through a pane of glass. It shattered my happy feeling as the memory of the last day overwhelmed me. I was turning into a vampire. I'd run away from home. I had an accident and then some kind of weird near-death experience. I was turning into a vampire. Oh my goodness. Man, my head hurt. Zoe Bird, are you awake, baby? I blinked and blurred my blurry eyes, clear to see Grandma Redbird, sitting on a little chair close to my bed. Grandma, I croaked and reached for her hand. My voice sounded as terrible as my head felt. What happened? Where am I? You're safe, little bird, you're safe. My head hurts. I reached up and felt a place on my head that was tight and sore, and my fingers found the brick of stitches. It should. You scared 10 years of my life out of me. Grandma rubbed the back of my head gently. All that blood. She shuddered and then shook her head and smiled at me. How about you promise not to do that again? I promise, I said. So you found me, bloody and unconscious little bird. Grandma brushed the hair from my forehead. Her fingers lingered lightly on the mark, and so pale that your dark crescent seemed to glow against your skin. I knew you needed to be taken by the House of Night, which is exactly what I did. She chuckled. The mischievous sparkle in her eyes made her look like a little girl. I called your mother to tell her I was returning you to the House of Night, and I had to pretend that my cell phone cut out so I couldn't hear her, so I could hang up on her. I'm afraid she's not happy with either of us. I grinned back at Grandma Redbird. Hee. Mom was mad at her too. But Zoe, whatever were you doing out during the daylight? And why didn't you tell me earlier that you had been marked? I struggled to sit up, grunting in pain in my head. But thankfully, I seemed to have stopped coughing. Must be because I'm finally here, the House of Night. But the thought disappeared as my mind processed all of what Grandma had said. Wait, I couldn't have told you earlier. The tracker came to school today and marked me. I went home first. I really hoped Mum would understand and take my side. I paused, remembering again the awful scene with my parents. In total understanding, Grandma squeezed my hands. She and John basically locked me in my room while they called our shrink and started the prayer tree. Grandma grimaced. So I crawled out the window and came straight to you, I concluded. I'm glad you did, Zoe Bird. It just doesn't make any sense. I know, I sighed. I can't believe I got marked either. Why me? That's not what I mean, baby. I'm not surprised that you were tracked and marked. The redbird blood has always held strong magic. It was only a matter of time before one of us was chosen. What I mean is, it makes no sense that you were just marked. The crescent isn't an outline, it's completely filled in. That's impossible. Look for yourself, Uetsiagea. She used the Cherokee word for daughter, suddenly reminding me very much of a mysterious ancient goddess. Grandma searched through her purse for the antique silver compact she always carried. Without saying anything else, she handed it to me. I pushed the little clasp. It popped open to show me my reflection, the familiar stranger, the me who wasn't quite me. Her eyes were huge, her skin was too white, but I barely noticed that. It was the mark I couldn't quit staring at. The mark was now a completed crescent moon, filled in perfectly with distinctive sapphire blue from the vampire tattoo, feeling like it was moving through a dream, like I was moving through a dream. I reached up and let my fingers trace the exotic looking mark, and I seemed to feel the goddess's lips against my skin again. What does it mean? I said, unable to look away from the mark. We were hoping you would have an answer to that question, Zoe Redbird. Her voice was amazing. Even before I looked up from my reflection, I knew she would be unique and incredible. I was right. She was movie star beautiful, Barbie beautiful. I'd never seen anyone up close who was so perfect. She had huge almond-shaped eyes that were a deep, mossy green. Her face was almost a perfect heart, and her skin was the kind of flawless creaminess that you see on TV. Her hair was deep red, not that hard carrot top orange red, or the washed out blonde red, but dark, glossy auburn that fell in perfect waves past her shoulders. Her body was, well, perfect. She wasn't thin like the freak girls who puked and starved themselves into what they thought was Paris Hilton chic. That's hot. Yeah, okay, whatever, Paris. This woman's body was perfect because she was strong and but curvy. And she had great boobs. I wish I had great boobs. Huh? I said. Speaking of boobs, I was totally sounding like one. The woman smiled at me and showed amazingly straight white teeth without fangs. Oh, I guess I forgot to mention that in addition to their perfection, she had a sapphire crescent moon neatly tattooed in the middle of her forehead, and from it, swirls of lines that reminded me of an ocean wave framed her brows, extending down to her cheekbones. She was a vampire. I said, we were really hoping that you would have some explanation about why a fledgling vampire that hasn't changed has the mark of a mature being on her forehead. Without her smile and the gentle concern in her voice, her words would have seemed harsh. Instead, what she said came off as worried and a little confused. So, I'm not a vampire? I blurted. Her laughter was like music. Not yet, Zoe, but I would say that already having your mark complete is an excellent omen. Oh, well, good. That's good, I blabbed. Thankfully, Grandma saved me from total humiliation. Zoe, this is the High Priestess of the House of Night, Neferet. She's been taking good care of you while you've been, Grandma paused, obviously not wanting to say the word unconscious, while you've been asleep. Welcome to the House of Night, Zoe Redbird, Neferet said warmly. Neferet. I glanced at Grandma and then back at Neferet, feeling more than a little lost. I stuttered, That's not really my name. My last name's Montgomery. Is it? Neferet said, raising her amber-tinted eyebrows. One benefit of beginning a new life is that you have the opportunity to start over, to make choices you weren't given before. If you could choose, what would be your true name? I don't hesitate. Zoe Redbird. Then, from this moment on, you shall be Zoe Redbird. Welcome to your new life. She reached out like she wanted to shake my hand. I automatically offered mine, but instead of taking my hand, she grasped my forearm, which was weird, but somehow felt right. Her touch was warm and firm. Her smile blazed with welcome. She was amazing and awe-inspiring. Actually, she was what all vampires are, more than human. Stronger, smarter, more talented. She looked like someone that had turned on her blazing inner light within her. which I realise is definitely an ironic description considering a vampire stereotype, some of which I already know were totally true. They avoid sunlight, they're most powerful at night, they need to drink blood to survive, Yush, and they worship the goddess who's known as night personified. Thank you, it's nice to meet you, I said, trying really hard to sound at least semi-intelligent and normal. As I was telling your grandmother earlier, we have never had a fledgling come to us in such an unusual manner before, unconscious, and with a completed mark. Can you remember what happened to you, Zoe? I opened my mouth to tell her that I totally remembered it, falling and hitting my head, seeing myself like I was a floating spirit, following the weirdly visible words into the cave and meeting the goddess Nyx. But right before I said the words, I got a weird feeling, like someone had just hit me in the stomach. It was clear and it was specific, and it was telling me to shut up. I I really don't remember much. I broke off and my hand found the sore spot where my stitches poked out. At least not after I hit my head. I mean, up until then I remember everything. The tracker marked me. I told my parents and got into a ginormic fight with them. Ginormic? Then I ran away from my grandma's place. I was feeling really sick, so when I climbed up the path to the bluffs, I remember the rest of it, all the rest of it. The spirits of the Cherokee people, the dancing and the campfire. Shut up, the feeling was screaming at me. I guess I slipped because I was coughing so much and hit my head. The next thing I remember is Grandma Redbird singing, and then I woke up here. I finished in a rush. I wanted to look away from the sharpness of her green gaze, but that same feeling that had ordered me to be quiet was also clearly telling me to keep eye contact with her. I had to try really hard to look like I wasn't hiding anything, even though I didn't really have a clue as to why I was hiding anything. It's normal to experience memory loss with a head wound, Grandma said, matter-of-factly breaking the silence. I could have kissed her. Yes, of course it is, Neferit said quickly, her face losing its sharpness. Do not fear for your granddaughter's health, Sylvia Redbird. All will be well with her. She spoke to Grandma respectfully, and some of the tension that had been building inside me loosened. If she liked Grandma Redbird, she must be an okay person, or a vampire, or whatever, right? As I'm sure you already know, vampires, Nefrit paused and smiled at me, even fledgling vampires, have unusual powers of recovery. Her healing is proceeding uh, so well, it's perfectly safe for her to leave the infirmary. She looked from Grandma to me. Zoe, would you like to meet your new roommate? No, I swallowed hard and nodded. Yes. Excellent, Nefrit said. Thankfully, she ignored the fact that I was standing there, smiling like a stupid garden gnome. And are you sure you couldn't keep her here for another day for observation? Grandma asked. I understand your concern, but I assure you Zoe's physical wounds are already healing at a pace you would find extraordinary. She smiled at me again. Even though I was scared and nervous and just plain freaked out, I smiled back at her. It seemed like she was genuinely happy that I was here, and, truthfully, she made me think that turning into a vampire might not be such a bad thing. Grandma, I'm fine, really. My head just hurts a little. And the rest of me feels way better. I realised as I said it, it was true. I completely stopped coughing. My muscles didn't ache anymore. I felt perfectly normal, except for the headache. Then Nefrite said something that not only surprised me, but made me instantly like her and begin to trust her. She walked over to Grandma and spoke slowly and carefully. Sylvia Redbird, I give you my solemn oath that your granddaughter is safe here. Each fledgling is paired with an adult mentor. To ensure my oath to you, I will be Zoe's mentor. And now you must entrust her to my care. Nefrite placed her fist over her heart and bowed formally to Grandma. My grandma hesitated for only a moment before answering her. I will hold you to your oath, Nefrite, High Priestess of Nyx. Then she mimicked Nefrite's actions by putting her own fist over her heart and bowing to her before turning to me and hugging me hard. Call me if you need me, Zoe Bird. I love you. I will, Grandma. I love you too. And thank you for bringing me here, I whispered, breathing in her familiar lavender scent and trying not to cry. She kissed me gently on my cheek, and then, with her quick, confident steps, she walked out of the room, leaving me alone, for the first time in my life, with a vampire. Well, Zoe, are you ready to begin your new life? I looked up at her and thought again how amazing she was. If I actually changed into a vampire, would I have her confidence and power? Or would that only be something a high priestess got? For an instant, it flashed through my mind how awesome it must be to be a high priestess. And then my sanity returned. I was just a kid, a confused kid at that, and definitely not high priestess material. I just wanted to figure out how to fit in here, but Nefrite had certainly made what was happening to me seem easier to bear. Yes, I am, and I was glad I sounded more confident than I felt. And that's the end of chapter 6. It's not a long one, but I might leave it there for tonight. Um, what is it tomorrow? What did we say we'd do? Dunlockwood? What did I do last Thursday? I don't think I did anything. Took a wee break. Well, I'll see what I can conjure up. I've got lots of books. I'm sure we can get through one of them. But thank you for listening. This will be on YouTube, and if you're listening on YouTube, I'll be on Twitch. I'm live, hopefully, around in the evenings if you're in Britain, or other times if you're from other countries, by 8 o'clock GMT. Um, I'll try to get the stream working and so you can see Nimbus throughout. I know, I'm sorry, a black screen isn't very exciting to watch, but I'm sure we'll work it out one way or the other. And thanks for listening.